Well, I do want to welcome everybody here today. We are so pleased that so many of you have decided to join us today to talk about what Joel and I think is the most relevant four-letter word in business. And if it's not the word that you think, we are talking about love today. So love is our four-letter word. And our goal really is to try and redefine what love means and also how it shows up in our business, in our organizations, and in our society. And in fact, when Joel and I have been talking about this, we know that love can look like a lot of things, but it also factors into so many hot topics that we're exploring in the world right now, in leadership and development, in social work, that we felt like it would be amiss if we didn't name it here today as a place for deep exploration. Now, we are going to highlight in today's session leaders that we think would be great for you to follow, but we're not attached to them in any way, organizations that we think are interesting to model that we're not attached to necessarily in any way, authors that we have loved to read, and we also want to give you some immediate action steps. And this is so that when you leave today, you can start to immediately infuse in your life and in your work love and kindness. Our goal is to really empower each of you that are here today to become a leader who leads with love. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We also want to do just a couple very quick introductions because some of you might know Joel and some of you might know me, but we want to make sure that you know both of us deeply and emotionally. So for introduction's sake, my name is Cara-Lyn Giovanniello. Hi, everybody. And I am the head of People, Learning, and Growth at Nextdoor, and also the founder of CLG Coaching and Consulting. I have actually spent the last few, I can say now, officially decades, working in learning and development, really elevating what I consider to be two of the most important concepts in leadership, which is emotional and relationship intelligence in individuals, leaders, and teams. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today to talk about a few of my favorite topics, which is leadership, which is love, and it is belonging. And I ask all of you to please find me on LinkedIn and say hello after this session. I am joined by my partner in all things love and development, Joel Wright. I'd love to pass it over him to say a quick hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. For those that I don't know, welcome to the Leadership Forum community. For those that have been a part of the community for a while, great to see you all again. And, just for those of you that don't know, I'm actually the president of the Leadership Forum community. So I play a leadership role within this community. And then I'm also a leadership program manager and facilitator out at Block, what used to be known as Square. And it is Cara-Lyn's fault that I'm there. And have felt abandoned by her leaving and going to Nextdoor. No, not at all. She is doing great things, and I celebrate her move and all that she's doing and such. And prior to being in these organizations, I've had a rich history working for about 12 years with the Center for Creative Leadership. And it's really there that I really found this language of democratizing leadership. And how can we make leadership affordable and accessible to everyone? Because it's basically human development. And so that connects my work at Block, the work here that we do within the Leadership Forum. And so just a little bit more about the Leadership Forum. You can see our purpose is around expanding conscious leadership. That's a little bit synonymous with democratizing leadership. But, we want to have a world where everyone feels like they can learn and grow as leaders and contribute to the leadership process. So we have a 105-year history, but we like to think of us as the oldest startup in the world, meaning that we became our own nonprofit about 3 years ago. So we have a rich history of convening leaders to look at leadership challenges. And conscious leadership has been a thread through all of that. So we decided to call it out and more specifically lean into it and focus on it. And we think it's incredibly relevant and important to our time here. So just real briefly, a lot of people say, well, hey, what do you mean about conscious leadership? And I want to pull these two words apart because they're going to help us think about the topic of the day. So we like to think about conscious leadership. So let's pull apart conscious leadership. So I want to start with leadership because, again, with my roots at the Center for Creative Leadership and the research that they've done, leadership is a social process. It's about humans coming together to accomplish something together. That's research-based. That means we are all in this together when we're trying to accomplish something. And so the consciousness part is, how do we increase our awareness about a challenge? How do we clarify our intentions? And how do we own our responsible action in whatever the challenge is, as we have broadened our understanding, as we have broadened our consciousness of it? So, leadership by definition, a social process that we all contribute to. And then, of course, consciousness, how are we increasing our awareness, intention, and action? And, as we think about this, this is a journey. I also connect this to Bill Torbert's work and other vertical leadership work around the journey. What I would say is from me to we. I will drop some information out in chat for you all to access the HBR article. That's one of the most read articles, top 10 most read articles by Bill Torbert. And, we go from this journey of me to we, and it involves us, going from advocacy sometimes to inquiry. Power dynamics change during this journey. And I would pose that how we think about love and accept it, our ability to give and receive it during this journey, also transforms. So I will share more about that. But hey, let's get back to Cara-Lyn. She's got some more great information here. Cara-Lyn, back to you.
Thank you, Joel. So Joel and I have actually been playing with the idea of love and kindness in the workplace since we talked about the power of dreaming when we presented at last year's LFC Summit. We, from that time, got really laser focused on learning how we can get more love into our work and who it should and can come from, and mostly how it will shape culture and increase belonging in our lives. Now, our hope is that by the end of this session that we can all somewhat agree that love is an essential ingredient in business and in our society. And we already know some things about love. We know that it creates a positive and supportive environment that fosters qualities like teamwork, creativity, innovation. These are all huge bonuses when you're looking at bottom lines that we are aiming to hit, whether that's in impact and productivity. Additionally, I think that love is a secret ingredient in business because it helps to build strong relationships with our customers, with our clients, with our employees, which all lead to greater loyalty and trust. And when people feel this love, when they feel appreciation, they are absolutely more motivated to work hard and to produce exceptional results. And I think that's all why we're here today. So I am curious, you're welcome to use the little tools down at the bottom, which is a reaction. If you see that, if you hover over it, you can raise your hand or you can click a thumbs up. Or you can just, if you have your camera, raise your hand. I always like to know who's on the call today, especially like how many of you consider yourself people managers? You can just post a little link or yeah, I see Anisha's got her hand up there. Yep, there's Zoe, thank you. I'm curious, how many of you work in learning, development, or educational sectors? Okay, I see a little head bobble. That's like a little part of it. What about customer service? Yeah, some consultants on the call, I assume as well. Thank you, Faith. Any nonprofits here? Yeah, great. So I ask because I think a lot of the roles that I just named are where people are the main client or customer that we have. And overall, love in business is so essential because what it's doing is empowering the people to create, to maintain, and to encourage a positive, supportive, and collaborative environment. So love is the thing that's going to foster deep psychological safety. And that psychological safety is what's going to support loyalty and trust and innovation. And all of those things are critical to the success of any person or program or organization. The thing that we're talking about today, love, is actually what inspires people to do the best side of their work, the best work of their lives. And I can see missing the left sides of the Missing the left side of the slides is frustrating, says Charlie. I'm not sure what that means. I'm going to let Joel, you kind of manage that a little bit. I do want to chat about brass tacks, if we can go to the next slide, Joel. And I think that there are three main reasons why love in business is crucial. And I just want to highlight three things that I think right now, if you work with people, these are things that are going to show through love immediate impact. Number one, if you have employee satisfaction and retention, they're going to show your employees that they are satisfied with their jobs, and turnover rates are going to begin to decrease. It is love in the workplace that fosters a sense of community and respect and belonging that inspires the folks that you work with in your communities and your organizations to go above and beyond their duties. I also want to talk about loyalty. Loyalty is such a powerful word that is attached to love, because it's the loyalty in love that builds long-lasting relationships with customers and between people. So if you imagine your business shows love to their customers, shows appreciation, what they're actually doing is they're creating lifelong loyal advocates who are more likely to refer this business than others. And working in a business myself of coaching and consulting, loyalty, referrals, it's everything. And so we want to be able to show that loyalty and love to our customers and to our employees to build that. Lastly, and I'm big into education here, so innovation and creativity. If you can show love in the workplace, in your society, in your communities, what you are doing is fostering an environment where people feel free to express ideas, where they can take risks without fear of judgment or retribution. This is what I truly believe creates cultures of innovation and creativity. And this is what drives success. The freedom to fail, which in my world means frequent adventures in learning. You're welcome to take that, put it on a Post-it note, stick it to your wall. Fail is what is going to drive psychological safety, which drives innovation, which drives success. Back to you, Joel.
Yeah, Cara-Lyn, great stuff. Charlie, thanks for the help with the screens. Good to get that feedback. And here's what I want to do is I want to tell you just a little bit of the origin story of how, I kind of came to this. And, Cara-Lyn and I continue to talk about all of this, and we're going to get you into a breakout group here in just a bit, and you'll be in there for nearly a half an hour with other people. And so it's a good opportunity to practice how you can engage with other people in a loving kindness sort of a way. But here are some examples that connected with my story and what I'm starting to see out there in the world. So first of all, for me, leading with love emerged out of a hike up Mount Shasta last year, nearly an exact year ago. And it was 20 years ago that we were hiking with some other friends, and that friend ended up dying from ALS. So we were up there to celebrate his life 20 years later, a group of us, and it was a profoundly emotional and deep experience. And I was doing this in the great outdoors that I love, with people that I love. And on this hike, while you're laboring up this mountain, I just had this profound feeling of love and appreciation for what I was doing, the purpose of it, and all of these things. And I started to say, like, how do I lead a life of love? And this is what it looked like as you looked up the mountain up to 16,000 feet. And so that was connecting with some of the conversations with April that we were having. And so as I came back, Cara-Lyn, April, and I were connecting, talking about the leadership forum, what we were presenting on last year. And then I started to see some other quotes and stuff showing up in the world. And if you remember, Jack Dorsey last year, when Elon Musk took over, he actually tweeted out there. And he was modeling what I thought was a leader demonstrating how to lead with love. So when you read what's on the screen here, you see Jack responding to the world in many ways, saying, I take responsibility, for what has happened. And he names it. I am grateful for you and everyone who has ever worked at Twitter. I was like, oh my God, that is a great example of leading with love. And then Cara-Lyn and I continued to talk and explore some of these, and she has found other examples.
So I'm a big reader. I set a goal for myself of 60 books a year, and it's actually very challenging to fit that in when I have two small children and two jobs and a lot of things that I love to invest, in terms of hobbies and interests. But I do push myself to read. And some authors have really risen to the occasion in terms of inspiring me about love and kindness in the workplace and in our lives. And one of them is Simon Sinek. Are there any Simon Sinek fans on the call? Yes, I love seeing hands up. Okay, great. If you aren't familiar with him, Simon is an author and he is the founder of a company called Optimism Company, which is a driver for building love in business. And one of my favorite sayings by him is that there's an entire section in the bookstores that are called self-help. But what we really need is a section called help others. And I really love that because, again, it's putting this growth mindset and love capabilities into practice into our world. And Simon is super practical about the many ways that love can manifest in business. And so I wanted to just give a few so that you can start to hopefully write these down and maybe reflect with your teams and with your leaders, how can we build more of this in your organizations? First and foremost, respect and recognition. I cannot stress that one of the most significant ways to show love in business, in your organizations, in your societal and communities, is by respecting and recognizing your employees. Now, this can be done through a public recognition, this can be done through a promotion or through a bonus, or simply by providing opportunities where people can be grown and developed. You cannot put a small price on the feeling that someone has when they have been recognized and respected. Additionally, flexibility, a flexible working arrangement, which could be telecommuting, could be a flexible schedule, could be extended vacation times. This is something that a company can show as a value for their employees' well-being and work-life balance. And this is a great way to show love to the people that give the majority of their time and energy to what we're calling their day jobs. Now, Joel and I both work for organizations where flexibility is a huge demonstration that we feel from our leaders with love for their employees. Additionally, I asked earlier, how many of you work in customer service? Because businesses that show love to their customers by providing excellent customer service, this could be being responsive to customers' needs, resolving issues promptly, going above and beyond to make customers feel valued. I mean, show of hands here, how many of you have ever had great customer service? Yeah, Stephen was like, I have, great. Well, in the same, throwing up your hand, how many of you have had terrible customer service? Yes, double hands there. So you know how much this one matters. Additionally, we've got to kind of level up the conversation that we're having, which is corporate social responsibility. I think it is incredibly important that we are encouraging, pressuring, strategizing together to get companies to prioritize corporate social responsibility, which could mean giving back to their communities, showing environmental sustainability, promoting social justice, to show that they care more about things that are just profit driven. So companies like Johnson & Johnson, they right now are sinking 100% of their energy to come from renewable sources by 2025. That's in 2 years, and that's incredible from the size of that company. Consider Legos, something that either of us have either played with or stepped on at least once in our lives. What they're doing is aiming to phase out single-use plastic packaging for all of their bricks with packaging that will be sustainable again by 2025. That is in 2 years. That is huge when you think about our overgrown garbage cans and recycling centers that can't handle what we're producing. Also think about things that are simple, cheap, free, easy, and create deep impact. What are team building activities like retreats, like training sessions, like social events that you can utilize immediately, which are an excellent way for businesses and organizations to foster relationships? The question of, can I get to know you better among people, is a beautiful way to show love. And if you want something that's even more simple, just consider how impactful, thoughtful gestures can be. Simple acts of kindness, such as sending a thank you note, a gift card, a call, a text, a Slack, can go such a long way in showing love to employees, to customers, to human beings, that people cannot help to feel overwhelmed by a small gesture of love. So if I'm moving on, I want to talk a little bit about how leaders can show love at work. And by demonstrating care, support, empathy. We haven't even used the word empathy yet today. But if we can find leaders that can show these things for their employees, these are leaders, this can be you, that change culture from toxic wastelands to talent gardens. So first and foremost, Dov Seidman is an American author. I might have said his name wrong. Seidman? I think it's Seidman. He's also an American author. He's a columnist. He's a businessman. He's the founder and chairman and CEO of LRN, which is an ethics and compliance management firm. He consistently references how important it is for leaders to show love by providing emotional support to their employees during challenging times. How many of you have felt that you have either struggled yourself or seen others struggle, especially in the last 3 years? I need to see every hand up, okay? It is impossible not to know someone who has been affected. If it's not yourself, it's in your family, it's in your work, it's in your society. If we are able to show folks that we can listen to their concerns, we don't have to solve them, but we are allowed to be vulnerable, to let them be vulnerable, to offer empathy and help where we can find solutions or support. That is love from leaders, absolutely. Another person that I really recommend you either listen to some podcasts, read some books, follow on YouTube. Deepak Chopra has written over 91 books. 20 of them have been on the New York Times bestsellers. And his book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, was on the New York Times bestseller list for 72 weeks. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And in that book, he talks about love being such a powerful voice that it translates into encouraging deep development. And managers, leaders, people leaders can show love by encouraging their employees to grow, to simply say, I want to see if you're here, how can we get you together in relationship to there? And this, again, training opportunities, mentorship, coaching. So if your organization doesn't have one or more of these as part of their makeup, I'm asking you, I'm challenging all of you, what can you do to help establish programs like these in your organizations and communities? And finally, you got to end with Oprah. Oprah, okay, if I could give you all cars, I would right now. She needs no other introduction. But Oprah is bringing the coach-like behaviors of active listening as a demonstrated technique for loving others. And she says in so many different areas that one way that people leaders can show love is by listening attentively and without distraction to another person. And she really doubles down to stress that what this means is paying attention when someone is expressing a concern, an emotion, a feeling, which even though we say a lot of times in business, emotions don't belong here, feelings don't belong here. I will ask all of you to not check your humanity at the door and bring those into work and challenge our leaders to provide support and guidance, to offer solutions where possible. And I'm not saying if you're a leader, you have to be a counselor, but I will say that the traits of a great coach or counselor only demonstrate deep kindness and care for others, and it will never hurt for you to try and be vulnerable to develop those skills. So maybe it's time for us to stop talking and for you to start talking. So I'm going to pass it over to Joel, who is going to get us into some breakouts.
Great. So you can see how this is going to work. We'll be in groups of about 3 to 4. I'm going to shrink this time down a little bit, so it'll be closer to about 20 minutes that you'll be in there, but you'll have an opportunity for some really rich dialogue. And, you know, this is an opportunity to practice leading with love. How do you engage with other people? So have some patience, apply some best dialogue practices of suspending judgment and being wildly curious. And to help get things into an order right away, whose ever first name is closest to the letter L for love, you get to go first. So introduce yourself, why you're here, and then we have a series of questions here for you to look at. And so we will drop these out there for you, but you can start to look at them, take in a few of them. You could take a screenshot. I'll leave it there for about 20 seconds. But again, if your name is closest to L, then you'll jump in and go first. We'll debrief this a little bit when you get back, and I am going to finish setting up the breakout rooms here for you. Hello, welcome back.
Oh, did I ever love this?
Yes, that's what we wanted to hear. We hope that you all came back with some great snippets from your group. We actually want to do a little bit of I put debrief here in a second on the slide because we want to highlight some things, but we also need to be brief about it. But we want to hear what your experience was like in your breakout room. Joel, if you can click through to the next slide here, let's debrief a little bit. Is there anybody that feels very confident that would like to share some takeaways that they had from their group discussion? Greg, I see your hand up. Let's do this.
Yeah, thank you. So I was in there with Steve and Charlie, and I think one of the things that really struck me was how we were talking about examples of it in our life and work, and just how meaningful and energizing it was just to have this experience of love. And so we talked about things like caring, empathy, respect, but also connecting with people and loving kindness and examples of it. And, you know, we all just kind of talked about Warren Bennis, the great leadership scholar, as just an exemplar of this in his life, the way that he served something larger than himself, and he connected. And last thing I'll say is we also talked about what is the opposite of, and what makes it hard to that question. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but and fear and ego and exclusion and division and tribalism. And I think it's very much irrelevant. There's kind of this kind of battle between the love approach and the other approaches here. Very, very relevant and timely.
Greg,
Yeah, go.
Greg, I love what you're saying there, and I got to give Greg a quick shout out because out there on LinkedIn, I'll send it to you. He actually just wrote a nice article out there that connects a lot of threads around love. So I'll send that as a follow-up to everyone. Greg, Charlie, Steve, great to hear the fantastic conversation. Back to you, Cara-Lyn.
Anybody else? I mean, I'm turning the floor over to y'all. What else came up for your group that you feel like the rest of us really need to hear because it was like a great nugget?
I think for our group,
or who was going? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say for our group, we, similar to Greg, like that connection, right? Like I had shared my favorite author, Bob Goff, wrote a book called Love Does. And he talks about when you're with somebody, like take your shoes off, like get comfortable. That action of like, you know, crossing your legs, you know, getting real comfortable in their house and just taking your shoes off and being there with them and for them is just so important in that action of how love does things and how love, like you can lead with love. So
Faith, I love that. I got to jump in here again, and I find myself asking the question, what permission do I need to give myself to be that way? And often that's the challenge. So I just raise that question for all of us. What permission do we need to give ourselves to take our shoes off?
Yes.
Well, Faith, what was the name of that book? That sounds fabulous. What was the name of that?
it's called Love Does.
Love Does. That's interesting. I love that. Take your shoes off. Well, I just wanted to clarify, to say that this was a play within a play for us, because talk about love and affinity and making connections. We have a new person who has joined the Leadership Forum for the very first time. Her name is Michelle Mapp. Welcome, Michelle, to the Leadership Forum. So, you know, Lyndon and I were with Michelle. So we made that love connection with who we are as a leadership forum and some tools that we have that Michelle can tap into. And Joel, I used your name as someone who, for Michelle to maybe meet one-on-one with, to find connecting points to other things. We were talking about the dialogue tool that the lab created that maybe she could use. We made a connection with, she's in California, I'm in New Jersey, but she's a Jersey girl at heart from where she grew up. And so I think that feeling of belonging, even as in the leadership forum, and what are we doing to create community within ourselves. And so Michelle, I'm just happy that you were here, and I don't know if you have a few words about what you picked up as a new person in the group.
Sure. So thanks, everybody. Yeah, so this is my first time coming to one of these events. I really appreciate it. And it was a great conversation with Eileen and Lyndon. And one of the things that, you know, we were talking a lot about how the affinity that we create between people is what often leads to the ability to lead with love. And without that it makes it more challenging. So, and we talked about that in the concept of values as well. Shared values, but that doesn't have, that's just one option. There's other things as well. And I think that was interesting in terms of what are those different ways. And then I think the question I'm of course left with now is how to improve that and increase that in the leadership I do, right? And translating that, that's the next challenge.
Yes, yes. Jermaine and Tina, I want to invite you in. I popped into your room. Tina, it's been years, and curious to hear what your thoughts are coming from the political world too that you've been operating in.
Yeah, when I was talking to Jermaine, I was an elected official, and I was in the petri dish of the politics and the rough world of politics. One of the things that I learned, and I wished I had brought in more, was coming from the place of love in conversations in which were difficult to get legislation passed, and where it was difficult to get people on board. And one of the things I was saying is I was being a doer and I was not being. And I feel that in love, I want to drop down in my body. Like how I define love is it's in my body. I don't define it with words. I want to define it as it's an experience. And then with that experience, I then talk with the energy of love, the spirit of love. And one thing that is unique, I'm from St. Louis, is Congresswoman Cori Bush is my congresswoman. And she has these t-shirts, I am the congresswoman that loves you. And she uses that all the time. She has many of them. I love you. And it resonates. It resonates. And so that's a little bit of my experience in elected office.
That's great, Tina.
Tina, I knew pulling you in, you were going to say something brilliant there, and you completely exceeded my expectations right down to a shirt, an example. We should all wear a shirt like that for our colleagues, for our families, for our friends. I love you. We don't hear it enough. Hey, we are at the top of the hour, and what I do want to do is I just want to end this with recognizing and really leaving you with a question around what are you paying attention to? So if we really pay attention to beauty and love and trust, if we're looking for that in the world, it's going to generate, it's going to resonate with us. If we're looking for the challenges, the things that are broken and not working, yes, we need to pay attention to them, but how do we also reframe it and think about how do we bring that situation, or how do we bring the part of the work that we're doing that we don't like, how do we bring it love, or bring love with those people that we're doing it with? And so I could go on. I'm going to send you a number of things afterwards, but I also want to end with inviting everyone to the summit for the Leadership Forum this year. It's July 11th through the 14th. There will be a remote way to engage as well as a place-based way. locally and at Silver Bay, where we've met over the years. But I hope to see you all. Thank you all for doing this with us. Cara-Lyn, an absolute joy. Everyone have a great rest of the day. A number of us will hang around afterwards to keep talking. Feel free to stay. Thank you if it's your first time. Thank you if you're a longtime community member. I love you all. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
good care.